from GMA DCWB.
Magandang umaga po. Meron pong survey yung Okta Research and dito po sa survey na to na conducted last December lang pero recent lang po nilabas, 59% ng Filipinos po ay in favor na mag-rejoin yung Philippines sa International Criminal Court while 55% po ay in favor naman na mag-cooperate yung government natin sa probe ng ICC sa war on drugs. Your thoughts po bilang dalawa rin po kayong abogado. Then si Congressman Adiong po. Thank you.
Thank you. For that, of course, we respect what the people would be in favor for, no? But it doesn't necessarily mean na if 59% wish to do this or 55% wish to cooperate, ay automatically papasok na po at babalik po na sa ICC. We would expect that, and it will really be up to the executive naman po mag-decide kung yan po ang gusto po. But I think the president has already stated that as far as to date, we are not going to go back to the ICC. So tingnan po natin, executive powers naman po ito.
On my part po, no, just for background to refresh everyone, this representation, together with Congressman Benny Abante, filed a resolution urging the executive branch to cooperate with the ICC. So on my part po, I'm not saying this is on behalf of the House, pero we welcome that development. It just vindicates po yung ating resolution. Ibig sabihin po, mukhang majority po ng taong bayan is with us on this effort. And just to repeat po, no, why we filed that resolution, we really want to, like with economic chacha, it's all about sending the correct signals sa ating mga foreign friends and investors. Kasi as we mentioned, we're part of the community of nations. Hindi po tayo nag-iisa dito sa Pilipinas. We want to show them na we respect and uphold the rule of law, human rights. And seeing now, yung sa Okta Research, mukhang sang-ayon po sa atin, yung taong bayan. So I do hope, and although tama yung sinabi ni Kong Migs, na it is up to the executive, we do hope that they would reconsider their position, given light no of this new survey. Yun po.
Well, it's an executive decision. Should this administration join the ICC? In fact, the same can be applied in this current administration. During the previous administration's unilateral revocation, the withdrawal of our membership from the ICC. Now, I think this current administration is conscious on data-driven studies. Yung mga surveys, in mga research. Sabi nga ng mga kasamahan ko dito, ang gobyerno at ang administration, sino man ang nakaupo, ay responsive dapat sa mga pulso ng bayan. And that's why we're here. That's why we're elected in the first place. So I guess it's part of the executive to appreciate and to probably decide on whether or not we should rejoin the ICC. But if it's based on a study, which according to you came out from recently, 6% of Filipinos out of 10 or 5.9 out of this gas. It's in the middle. So I think it should be the executive branch that would put a stop to the issue whether or not we would join or we will maintain our withdrawal from the ICC. So, yun lang ang position namin dito sa House of Representatives. We respect whatever is the decision of the executive should they finally decide to rejoin the ICC. That's based on what the people's polls today, then we will welcome that in the House of Representatives, I guess. And just to be clear about that, that is my personal opinion on the matter. We have yet to decide, the leadership have yet to decide, but basically this is ultimately an executive decision for Malacanang to finally decide on.
Thank you. We would like to acknowledge Billy Vegas from Abante Politico for his question.
So, pag hindi siya dumating sa susunod na hearing, most likely mas contempt siya. So, the House ready na ipa-arrest mo na ipa-arrest.
Well, to answer that question po, no, matagal na po yung nagkaroon tayo ng hearing dito tungkol sa SMNI franchise, and I suppose baka ready na po yung House. I believe it was a motion by Kong Pimentel, and wala akong nag-object. So this would give you the sentiment po siguro ng committee. Just to reiterate, napaka-importante po sana yung presence ni Pastor Kibuloy kasi as we mentioned, sections 4, 6, 7, 10, 11, 12, ang daming violations na nakikita namin sa committee, ngunit parang hindi po sapat yung mga sagot ng kanilang representatives. And we respect po, no, of course, yung representatives as they appear. Naintindihan po na as a lawyer, naintindihan rin namin yung mga abogado ng SMNI. Siyempre, through hook or by crook, talagang paninindigan nila yung stand nila kahit na mukhang palusot minsan. But as mambabatas po, as a lawmaker, nakikita po namin na we demand answers po. So, sa tingin po namin, importante po talaga na nandun po si Pastor Kibuloy. And that's why, siguro po, yun yung sentimento ni Congressman Pimentel by making that motion po na for the subpoena. And we are happy, at least ako personally, this representation na yung leadership has backed it up, no? Nagkaroon na ngayon ng subpoena. So, if next hearing, absent po ulit siya, I would say, I think, ready po yung committee to seek po, no, for to cite in contempt and seek the subsequent arrest po. No?
Well, with that, the committee will not be able to issue any subpoena if the committee in the House is not ready. And alam po natin, hindi lang naman po yung House ang nag-issue po kahapon, but also the Senate has issued this. And this is a matter of due process. And it's only right also na dumating po sana si Pastor para masagot po niya yung mga katanungan that is in relation to him and his own personal knowledge. So, sana po dumating siya para itong mga tinitingnan natin sa pagtitingnan sa mga prangkisa ay makapagsalita po siya. And that's only a matter of due process, and it's his right na sana dumating siya para masagot niya ang mga katanungan at hindi lang mga tao na dumadating at para andyan na lang po. Masagot niya lang talaga lahat ng mga katanungan instead of insinuating a lot of things.
Well, I'm not a lawyer, but you know, may kasabihan kasi ang mga abogado eh. Flight is an admission of guilt, di ba? We only issue subpoenas if the respondent is uncooperative, continuously dismissing the power of the House of Representatives as granted by the Constitution. It's a perfect avenue for anybody to defend himself if there are allegations that such violations are committed by his person or by his organization. This is a perfect way for the pastor to really share his piece, no, to the public. Kasi ang idedepensa po dito yung, I think, yung franchise ng SMNI. So, sabi ko nga, I would like to reiterate, we don't take issuance of subpoena lightly. We only issue subpoenas if there is a deliberate dismissal or rejection or ignoring the invitation of the House of Representatives. That's the last recourse. And his presence is very, very vital in the ongoing committee hearings para mas makita yung buong picture po ng pagdating po doon sa usapin ng violations ng SMNI.
Thank you. RG Cruz of abs-cbn.
Good morning po. I have two questions. Sa camera na lang po kayo sumagot. First question, may statement si Senator Amy Marcos claiming that yung AKAP funds baka na-divert doon yung ilang pondo from na dapat nakalaan sa mga pensyonado. What is your response to that?
Well, taking from what you said, no, baka, no, tingnan po muna natin ano po ba ang proseso nitong sa budgetary process. Sinasabi po, diba, na may mga insertions at mga bagay-bagay na baka naman nandyan. So, we have yet to see what the good senator will be giving to us. Pero pag tinignan natin ang budgetary process, ang manggagaling po sa, ang unang stage po dito ay galing po ang kung ano yung meron tayong pera na pwede nating tingnan for the budget, for the General Appropriations Bill from the DBM with the executive na magbibigay ng proposal on the first stage. Yung proposal na to, pinag-usapan namin kanina, di ba? Since month naman po ng pag-ibig pa rin ngayon. Para lang yan pag may nagpo-propose sa inyo, nagliligawan. Di ba? Hindi naman automatic pag yung proposal na yan ay yan na po ang nakalatag na plano, nagbabago po yan. At nakita nyo naman po kung pinapanood nyo, the House, when it started deliberating on the budget process, has gone through the deliberations with the various agencies. At makikita nyo yan online, pwede nyong balikan na ginawa po ang proseso na nakalatag po sa batas natin at napunta po to sa Senate at nagkaroon pa ng BICAM po. So ginawa po natin ang proseso na nandun sa Constitution natin, sa batas natin, sa pag-aaproba nitong General Appropriations Act na from the bill. And earlier, I think before we came in, Secretary Rex has already mentioned that the DSWD welcomes this program ng AKAP. Kasi nga po, bakit po ito magiging masama when ang pera po ng taong bayan, ang binabayad po yung buwis, ay bumabalik naman po sa taong bayan. Diba po? And this is beneficial sa mga nangangailangan. So bakit na binibigyan ng masamang ginagawa tayong masama dito na binabalik naman po natin sa taong bayan ang kinakailangan po ng mga taong makaka-benefit po dito. And this is more on the people who have low income.
Just to add to that na lang po, no? I think it was well put by Comigs. Yung question po talaga dito is, ano po talaga yung proseso? And the way that we see it, although kami po dito mga neophyte pa lang po, pero sa pagkakaintindi po namin, sumunod naman po tayo sa proseso, both under the Constitution and under the rules po respectively of the House and the Senate. Now, for someone to say po na ang isang budget ay na-slash galing at ang pondo nito ay linagay sa ibang budget item, mahirap po yun sabihin po kasi ang fiscal budget natin ay balancing act po yan, no? Hindi natin sinasabi dito na halimbawa, okay, magbabawas tayo sa ganitong pondo at maglalagay sa ganitong pondo and then on and on sa iba't ibang mga agencies. Hindi po yung ganun. Although we have a 5.7 trillion budget that we're working with, sabay-sabay po yun binabalanse. So for someone to claim that one budget was slashed in favor of another, I don't know how we could say that is the case. It's more likely po no, na equally pag nag-slash ito, lahat yan napunta equally rin sa ibang mga increases. And like they said po, yung proposal po na binibigay, proposal lamang po yan, itong NEP na sinasabi. This is based on the expected expenditure from the executive. But even then po, kulang pa po yun sa hinihingi ng mga bawat agency. Actually po, each agency would submit their proposal to the DBM. And of course, hindi lahat yun ay mapagbibigyan. They work with the current fiscal space at yan na po ang proposal na binibigay sa House. And then when it comes here, each executive agency po, magsasabi yan na actually hindi po lahat ng wishlist namin na isama ng DBM. We want more. And precisely, nakita po namin doon with the DSWD, as far as we understand, sang-ayon po sila dito sa budget na ito. This particularly yung AKAP. Talagang pinag-usapan po ito as early as October last year, I believe. Yun yung sabi daw po nila. The concept came way before. And the fact na pinasa po yun ngayon, despite being in BICAM, I don't think that's a problem po, no? Kasi dumaan naman sa proseso. And ano po yung pinaka-pruweba na dumaan po ito sa proseso? Yung signatures po ng ating mga senador, ating mga House members na kasama doon sa BICAM. Yung BICAM po, yung check and balance within ourselves. Yun ang pruweba po na nag-usap yung Senate at yung House about using the power of the purse, exercising that right. Nakita po natin doon sa BICAM po yung lumalabas. Now, for one person, for some of our stakeholders to claim now na yung BICAM ay hindi dumaan sa tamang proseso, sa tingin ko po, that is something that should be studied. It is a very grave accusation that should be studied very carefully and investigated. Paano po natin masasabi na hindi dumaan sa proseso? Kayo nga po ay nag-signify, you showed your intention, you showed your approval of the same by giving that signature. So, yun lang po. Sorry po, no, I think we mixed two topics, no, between the signature issue and then yung issue nung kung saan galing budget, no, yung slashing. But I think we have to look at it as a whole. Proseso po yan at dumaan, as far as we understand, sa tamang proseso rin naman po. So, yun lang po.
Just to add to what Congressman Mix and Congressman Rod said, um, I don't see any irregularities, no, doon sa process. Na-explain naman po ni Kong Rods na the usual process is that the executive proposes the budget, and this is the NEP, National Expenditure Program. And once it is being deliberated in the House, and once the BICAM approves the budget based on the NEP, it is now become the GAA, diba? It now becomes the GAA. Pero sabi nga, we can reduce, the Congress can reduce. It's a usual process. We can reduce, we can augment budget proposals cited in each of the line items per agency. In fact, it happened previously, no? May mga cases wherein, Kong Rods, correct me if I'm wrong, yung libreng sakay ba? Libreng sakay yung ano. Libreng sakay is just the same thing, di ba? It was introduced in the BICAM, but nobody questioned it. Kasi the very purpose of introducing items in the GAA is technically to have a specific beneficiaries, di ba? Kung wala naman pong beneficiary, bakit naman tayo papayag na magdadagdag tayo ng pondo ng ganyan? So, in terms of irregularities, I don't see any reason why some of our counterparts in the Senate are questioning, no, yung process because they themselves affix their signatures. Now, number two, yung issue po ng nagkaroon lang ito ng medyo malawakang diskurso sa publiko when the ongoing PI or the AKAP is, I don't know, it was brought out during the hearing on the PI, which is completely untrue. Kasi ang DSWD po, yan, sa pagkakaalam ko, I may be wrong, but this is how I understand the AKAP program. It's a catch-up intervention. Kasi once na-graduated, based on the data, according to PSA, yung nakakatapos ng mga 4-piece programs, they tend to go back to the below poverty line, which is basically the intention of the 4-piece, to maintain them doon sa near poor. And the problem of that is once you don't have an assistance, like a catch-up plan, to maintain these families outside of the poverty line, hindi na-forfeit yung pinaka-purpose nun. So you have to have a program for us to maintain yung status nila way above the poverty line. Yung kinukonsider po nating near poor. And based on the data, we have beneficiaries identified, we have sectors identified. So similar with what in the previous Congresses did when they introduced items and augmented a line item like yung libreng sakay, etc. It went just ballistic. Everybody went ballistic because I don't know the reason why it was attached to the ongoing PI investigation, which is sa amin po, which is completely untrue, na hindi po yan gagamitin for any initiatives connected with the People's Initiative. And nasabi po yan ng DSWD, andyan po yung mga facts, hindi po yan totoo. So I guess that is why the public now is investing so much attention in the AKAP. Maganda po yung programa na yan, well-intentioned, well-intended po yung programa na yan, may mga target beneficiaries po sila, at hindi po yan irregular sa proseso dahil nagangyari po yan doong previous Congresses, and this is within the power of the House of Representatives and the Senate sitting as a bicameral conference.
To add lang to that, no, with the process nga po, bakit po sinisingil ang administration nito? Pag tinignan nyo naman po yung past administrations, pag tinignan nyo, yung proseso, ganito yung nangyayari. Hindi lang sa administration ito. Again, it starts with the proposal. At yung proposal na yun, we only have to work with the budget that's given by DBM. And again, papasok naman po yung deliberations with the stakeholders, with the departments, sa kung ano yung mga kinakailangan ng various departments dito. At we had a discussion here in the House, the discussion din po sa Senate, dapat po then na-discuss yun sa BICAM. The GAA was signed on December. It's already almost the end of Feb. Bakit ngayon lang din kino-question to? Di dapat po, especially during the BICAM, if talagang may irregularities, this should have been raised as early as the discussions. At bakit po ngayon kino-question to sa timing na malaking issue? Yung nakakatakot po dito is, sa bawat na lang po na ayuda ibibigay namin sa taong bayan, nakasama po sa trabaho po ng public officials, public servants, bakit nire-relate dito sa People's Initiative? Bawal na po ba kaming magbigay ng tulong sa mga taong bayan at gagawin kaming masama sa pagbibigay ng nakakabuti naman po sa mga tao? Again, the DSWD, it's within their prerogative to also implement this, and wina-welcome po ng DSWD naman po ito, sinabi naman po ng secretary natin this morning.
Yun yung napakagandang point doon, no? Yun yung napakagandang point doon, mga kababayan, no? Kasi bawal na ba silang tumulong? Kasi in the past naman, the same process, no? Pero sa panahon ngayon ay pilit nilang inililink yung People's Initiative sa lahat ng ayuda o sa lahat ng mga tulong, anumang uri ng tulong na nais nang ibigay sa ating mga kababayan. So, it's something that is being politicized, no? Masyado nilang pinopolitiko, no? Lahat ng pwedeng itulong ng gobyerno sa ating mga kababayan. And we don't know kung ano ba talaga yung kanilang motivation dito, ano yung kanilang intention. Katulad nitong ginagawa ni Senator Amy Marcos, no? Na kung saan ay pinipilit niyang merong anomalya dito sa AKAP. Pero bakit nga daw hindi diniscuss, bakit hindi nila ni-raise yung problem kung meron man during the bicameral meeting. Nandun naman sila. Pero ngayon na nagkakaroon nga ng mga issues ay pinapalaki nila at palaging idinidikit o nire-relate doon sa People's Initiative. So, nakakatakot daw ito sapagkat pwedeng ma-hamper, no? Maapektuhan yung mga tulong na pwedeng i-deliver ng ating gobyerno sa ating mga kababayan. So, ituloy pa natin, mga kababayan, no?
Thank you, Kongs. To my colleagues from Mindanao, very well pointed out. One thing I want to add lang po, no? As mentioned last week and brought up again by si Kong Zia, yung libreng sakay is one important example. Is it not po yung libreng sakay? Hindi naman po yung talaga regular item ng DOTR. And actually, unang lumabas ito during COVID pandemic with bayanihan yung law, yung Bayanihan Act. Tapos, eventually, nawala po ito, but nakita po natin social bill po to, social impact po talaga. Malaking bagay po ito sa ating mga commuters dito sa Metro Manila. And by wisdom of Congress po, binalik po ito. In BICAM rin po, if I'm not mistaken, for last year. So bakit po yung ganung process nung ina-insert, hindi po naging issue, pero ngayon AKAP, which again is a social provision, it's a very, it's a social impact bill, no, provision, na talagang casting a wider net, no. Yung kung dati yung 4Ps ay doon talaga poorest of the poor, itong AKAP naman ay for the near poor, yung mga vulnerable po talaga, especially given inflation. Yun po yung pagkakaintindi namin coming from the experts from no other than DSWD. So, bakit po, just to, why we bring up libreng sakay, no? Just to give that comparison, yung libreng sakay, walang problema, ito may problema. At yung timing pa, according to Kong Zia, in light of yung inquiry into PI. So, yung sa amin po, bakit of all the things, yung nakakatulong po sa tao. Yun yung ano I mean, we see it now. Nagsalita na po si Sec Gatchalian in support. So, in-house, obviously, we support. I don't think the judiciary will say anything contrary to that. Alam naman nila po, power of the purse yan. So, with all three through all three branches of government in support, bakit po ngayon naging issue for half of a branch, no, yung per Senate. So, yun lang po yung aming tanong ngayon. So, yun na po.
I have another question, but this is specific to Kong Migs. Yesterday, you had a statement addressing yung allegation or criticism from the camp of SMNI connecting yung supposed political plans ninyo or ng inyong pamilya in 2025 dun sa dynamics in Davao with SMNI, dun sa nangyayari sa SMNI na parang pinalalabas is parang ayaw nyo lumakas yung SMNI because of its connection to the Dutertes. Can you address that criticism?
So, una, no, anong kinalaman talaga po ng politiko sa mga violations nila sa franchise? It has nothing to do with it. Kung hindi sila nag-comply with their franchise, and this goes beyond this year, this is their second round for the renewal of their franchise, at they haven't been complying. Anong kinalaman po ng politics po doon? Sa kanila naman po yun. Decision po nila na hindi mag-comply. And I'm not I do not know why hindi pa po tapos itong chapter na to na nire-relate po ako sa SMNI. I am not a member of SMNI. The personalities that were said, the political personalities, are not members of the Kingdom of Jesus, nor do they have, or I have myself have anything to do with the operations of SMNI. Huwag po natin i-mislead at i-misinform at ibudol ang publiko na may bahid ng politika to. Even with the resolution that I filed na napasa naman po at ginawa na ng NTC ang kanilang trabaho because may nakita silang violations. Well, again, one vote lang po ako sa Congress. The same as Kong Zia, Kong Rog, at kahit naman po na ako po yung nag-file ng resolution at hindi po ako yung nag-file ng revocation, it has nothing to do with politics. Maybe kailangan nilang tingnan kung paano na nila dedepensahin itong mga violations nila sa kanilang prangkisa kaysa gamitin na naman ako para sabihin may political agenda po ito.
So, ayun po mga kabayan, no? May, tama po kayo, Ma'am Eloka Liza. Kasi, simula po nung nagka-issue itong SMNI at saka itong Kingdom of Jesus Christ, ay isinabay din po nila yung pag-atake dito sa issue ng People's Initiative na ngayon nga po ay kung tutusin die down na, wala na itong People's Initiative sapagkat economic charter change na po yung pinag-uusapan sa Senado. However, pilit nilang pinapaingay pa rin at binubuhay at ginagamit itong isang propaganda laban sa gobyerno at sa ating mga nandyan sa Kongreso. At pinipilit na nire-relate nga lahat ng tulong na pwedeng ibigay ng gobyerno sa taong bayan ay inililihis sa People's Initiative na kung saan ay natatakpan yung mga totoong mga dapat ay pag-usapan. Katulad nitong pinapalabas nila na ang pagsasara ng SMNI ay isang panggigipit lamang ng gobyerno, lalong-lalo na ni Pangulong Bongbong Marcos. Well, mga kababayan, ano po ba ang kinalaman ni Bongbong Marcos dito sa issue ng SMNI kung saan nagkaroon sila ng mga violations? Eh di ba, according din kay former President Duterte, wala siyang pakialam doon sa isinagawang investigasyon ng Kongreso. Kaya naipasara ang abs-cbn. Though sabi nila ay iba ang issue ng abs-cbn because they don't have the franchise and some other violations sa labors and other permits or taxman yan. And so, the same din dapat dito sa SMNI. Ang Pangulong Bongbong Marcos ay hindi nakikialam sa trabaho ng Kongreso. At yung trabaho ng Kongreso ay imbestigahan kung ano yung mga violations nitong SMNI pagdating sa kanilang franchise. Yes, they have franchise, but porque ba may franchise ka na, is exempted ka na sa lahat ng bagay, especially sa ibang mga violations. Katulad ng mga kababayan, bakit ba na-call ang attention ng Congress dito sa SMNI? Because of spreading fake news. No? At isa na nga dyan yung programa ni ex-President Duterte, no, na kung saan ay nananawagan siya sa ating mga kababayan to defy the government by not paying their taxes. So, sa palagay niyo mga kababayan, tama ba na magkaroon ng programa ang isang TV stations na kung saan, no, ang kanilang prangkisa ay granted by the government, by the Congress, granted by law, pero inaatake mo mismo yung gobyerno at ini-encourage mo yung taong bayan na huwag magbayad ng buwis. So, I don't care with the laban kasama ng bayan doon sa red tagging because sabi ko nga, ang position ko dyan is there's no such red tagging kasi talaga namang red sila. So, why tag na red yung red na, no? Ang issue dito is, yung isa na ginagawa nilang platform, ang SMNI, to spread fake news and to attack the government. No? Paano nila inaatake yung gobyerno? Sa paninira, pamamagitan ng paninira. Remember, hindi po inaaway ni Pangulong Bongbong Marcos ang Duterte. It was Duterte who started it all. No? Even before pa lang ng eleksyon, ay nagsalita na itong si former President Duterte na merong isang kandidato na adik. And wala namang iba na kandidato na pwedeng ipit doon sa explanation niya kasi ginagamit lang yung pangalan ng magulang niya. Kaya nga, si Pangulong Bongbong Marcos po noon ay nagpa-drug test. Pero hanggang ngayon, ayaw nilang tigilan. So, itong SM or bigger investigations, no? Mihina yung signal natin. No? And now, they found out that there are some violations. At there are some technical problems dun sa kanilang prangkisa. Pero binigyan pa rin po ng due process yung SMNI. Kasi ipinatawag yung mga abogado nila, pinapatawag si Apollo Kibuloy, no? Para magpaliwanag at idepensa yung kanilang prangkisa. Pero it seems na itong si Kibuloy ayaw umattend, ayaw magpasako doon sa investigation na sinasagawa ng Kongreso para malinawan, no, itong status ng kanilang franchise. And now, marami sa kanilang mga vloggers ang nagpapalabas naman ng mga issues, no, na binubusalan ng gobyernong ito yung karapatang magpahayag, no, ng mga tao, lalong-lalo na yung mga nasa media at sa social medias. Wala pong action ang gobyerno para busalan ang mga nagsasalita o critical sa ating gobyerno. Wala po. Lahat po tayo, lahat kayo. Yung iba nga pambababoy na ang ginagawa. Hindi naman pinakikialaman ng gobyerno except those private individuals na nasasagasaan nila na lang yung sobra na at hindi nakatanggap-tanggap, yun sila ay nagsasampa ng demanda. But with the government, wala pong initiative ang gobyerno para busalan tayo. At yung nangyari po dito sa SMNI, hindi po pambubusal ito. Ito isang pag-iimbestiga, no? Sapagkat meron pong kinasasangkutan na iba't ibang problema. No? At hindi po tama, hindi po kalayaan yung himukin mo ang taong bayan to defy the government by not paying your taxes, no? Hindi po karapatan yung himukin mo yung taong bayan para labanan ng gobyerno. Hindi po karapatan yung magpakalat ng mga fake news, no? Mga fabricated information, no? At yun ang ibibigay natin, isusugulan tayo sa taong bayan. Kailangan kung media ka, kung meron kang TV stations, you have to be responsible enough for all the information na nilalabas nyo, pinapalabas nyo, pinapakalat nyo. Kaya huwag niyo pong sabihin na kayo ginidipit o binubusalan. Hindi ba sa inyo mga abogado pa? Pero just to twist or para nag-idepensa ang kapalpakan ng mga kampo ninyo, ay ginagawa nyo masama yung gobyerno. They're just doing their job. Pinoprotektahan lang din nila yung gobyerno. Kaya huwag po tayo magmalinis o maggaling-galingan. Plain and simple lang po ito. Tapos ngayon, sasabihin niyo ano ang kinalaman ni Kibuloy? Ay, si Salvador Panelo, siya nagsabi, anong kinalaman ni Kibuloy sa SMNI? Hindi siya may-ari. Wala siyang control over SMNI. Ikaw lang ang hindi nakakaalam ni si Kibuloy. Ang may-ari ng SMNI. Diba? So, ito isang pambabastos sa mga Pilipino. Na sabihin na ang SMNI ay walang kaugnayan kay Kibuloy, mga kababayan. Diba? Hindi pa po kasama dyan yung usapin ng mga abuses na ginawa ni Kibuloy. This is separate from the issue ng SMNI. Separate yung issue ng Kingdom of Jesus Christ. Although, the same people, the same personality, no, ang nandyan sa SMNI at saka sa Kingdom of Jesus Christ na ginagamit nila. Ginagamit nila mga tauhan. Kaya mga complainants sa Senado, no, mga victims, ay sinasabi nila na kahit sila ay nag-render ng service, nagtrabaho sa SMNI. Although they belong to the Kingdom of Jesus Christ. Led by Kibuloy. And of course, SMNI, pag-aari yan ng ni Kibuloy. Sino may sabing hindi? Attorney Salvador Panelo. Even yung mga programa nila abroad, ang nagko-cover nila SMNI. So dito nga, bakit ayaw niyong palutangin? Ayaw lumutang itong si Pastor Kibuloy doon sa investigasyon sa Kongreso. I don't care with the Senate kung ayaw niyong pumarap sapagkat ang hamon naman niya isang passion ng demanda sa Korte. Well, tama yun. But here sa Congress, no, you're obliged to defend your station. Ipagtanggol mo, di ba? Magatapang kayo eh, di ba? Naghahamon na nga kayo ng yung kakampi nyo kung ano paghahamon ang ginagawa. But that should not be the case, di ba? Hindi naghahanap ng gulo ang gobyerno. Diba? Ganon din ang ginawa sa abs-cbn noon. Hanggang sa magsara ang abs-cbn, ipinaglaban nila. Nagkaroon ba sila ng mga prayer rally to defend their stations? Pero kayo, ayaw nyong humarap. Abogado nilang pinapaharap nyo. Tapos sasabihin niya, binubusalan ang mga kritikal sa gobyerno. Binubusalan ang kalayaang magpahayag. Well, inuulit ko. Paninira is not part of freedom of expression. Yes, criticizing, walang problema dyan. Criticize the government, there's no problem. Criticize public officials, no problem. Pero enticing the people to go against the government and to fabricate, no? Spread lies, hindi na po kasama yan sa freedom of expressions. Hindi na po kasama yan sa freedom of speech, mga kababayan. Tuloy po natin.
Yun.
Thank you, ma'am. I would like to acknowledge Tina of GMA 7 for her question.
So, for everyone on the panel, sir, may allegations po from some senators that galing daw po sa House yung rumors ng Senate coup d'etat.
Tama, Marites, no? We respect the independence. I mean, the independence of our co-equal branch, the Senate. This is entirely up to the Senate. In fact, this is entirely up to the majority in the Senate. So we don't know why they keep on tagging us, no? Every time there's an issue coming up. We don't know what went, in these past few days, why the issue came out. We are absolutely oblivious of the fact that there is a case, there is an issue going on around Senate. So ang sa amin lang po it's up to them, no? We respect whatever the decision of the majority in the Senate. So we don't know why this is an issue that connects the House of Representatives when it is purely an administrative decision by the Senate, among the senators, and decision of the majority of in the Senate.
Well, simple lang po yan, no? Bakit pag nag-aaway-away po ang Senado, kami pa rin po ang may kasalanan? Wala naman pong kinalaman ang House of Representatives sa ng Senado in terms of their leadership. They have their own internal rules. We respect their rules. We respect who they want to place as their leader. So bakit po nasdadamay na naman po ang Kongreso na parang kami po ang mga masama dito? Kung sila pong mag-aaway-away, sila na pong mag-aaway-away dyan. Or kung magkakasundo. The same for us. We have nothing to do with the internal rules of the Senate and whatever and whoever they wish to keep with their leadership. At kung mayroon mga coup, depende po yun sa Senado. Wala po kaming kinalaman dyan.
As my colleagues here have stated po, no, na I'm similarly surprised na may allegation po nanggagaling yun sa amin. According to some quarters of the Senate, mga congressman lang daw po kami. Napakalakas naman po natin kung makaka-influensya po kami dyan sa upper chamber. Kinakagulat po namin ito because as far as I'm concerned, as far as I know, yung question po ng voting jointly ay doon lang sa economic chacha. Bakit po biglang kasama na kami sa internal rules nila about electing their leaders? Wala naman po kaming boto doon. So I would say na this would be suntok sa buwan po, no? Siguro yung allegation na we are related there. But with that said, we do hope that the Senate comes over. Naintindihan po natin there's a current impasse between the Senate and the House on a professional level po, no, sa trabaho natin. But I hope also yung whatever internal strife po magkaroon man ng Senate. Although we will not meddle, we do hope na matatapos po ito soon. Kasi po, the sooner that they are able to settle this, the sooner we're able to work rin po. Like we've said time and time again, kahit last week, we have a golden opportunity. Ang dami nating mga priorities, amongst which yung economic chacha, let's not forget. Sana po makabalik na po tayo sa trabaho. So kung marites man po yan, as according to the reporter po, kung marites man yun, I hope it stays as that. And talagang they find stability po, no, that we may continue with our work. You know.
Thank you. Mela Lismoras of Channel 4.
Hi, good morning po, Congressman. About naman po sa RBH 7 na ifinail kahapon, since we have representatives from the minority and majority, may I ask your views po about
this, and isama ko na rin, sabi kasi ni Senator Sonny Angara on RBH number 7 filing dito sa House, it's a positive development since it's moving towards the same goal. Hindi rin kasi nakakatulong yung ingay patungkol sa BI dahil naapektuhan itong usapin ng economic amendment sa saligang batas. So nakikita po ba natin to na finally parang there's a light at the end of the tunnel na, at ano pong masasabi natin dito na even from Senate ay may positive comments about this RBH 7?
So with that, this already will address itong mga pagkamarites at chismis na meron mga bahid ng political provisions ang movement towards the economic cha-cha. Very clear naman po sa RBH 7 that it's within the realm of the economic provisions, and it's the same as the one that Senate is looking into. And itong aspeto na to, pag tinignan nyo naman, na mirror po siya. And since welcome siya sa Senate, hopefully, tingnan na po nila at they will focus on that, while the House will separately focus into looking into this and joining together as a committee of as a whole to really discuss this exhaustively, at makikita nyo naman po ang discussion online because very transparent naman po talaga yung House para makita po ng taong bayan na itong mga insinuations na baka may bahid ng political, it's very clear. It's only within the economic provisions of the Constitution. And meron doon din the same yung sa unless otherwise provided by law, which means once this is done, it will now be up to the legislators again to come up with the law to, kumbaga, magiging exception na to the general rule, which is still the very constitution that we have today.
Well, personally po, and coming from the minority, I think I've said this before, that we all have our own views and opinions on how the economic chacha should go. But one thing that cannot be denied, that the president, our president, no matter what quarter of a society you're from po, presidente po natin yan, and their economic strategy with the great fiscal policy that they're trying to implement calls for priority, economic chacha. With that said, although me personally, for example, I prefer yung economic chacha would be reset, just clean slate, wala pong provisions whatsoever. Ang napagkasunduan po, I believe, between Senate and House, ang pag-uusapan would be this specific provision na unless otherwise provided by law. So, as much as some quarters would prefer na talagang walang prohibition whatsoever, at least it's a start. And we're glad to hear that po, na coming from the Senate, there is a positive response to RBH 7. Kumbaga, ang nangyari po dito is yung House nag-adjust na po, If instead of totally revamping yung constitutional economic provisions by our design, sumunod na lang po yung House doon sa kinagusto ng Senate na yung unless otherwise provided by law. Para lang maintindihan po natin anong ibig po sabihin yan. Ibig sabihin po, once this is passed, kung ano yung 60-40 provisions po ng Constitution, iyon pa rin po yun unless, yun nga, magpasa na po yung Kamara ng bagong batas. So it's a little lengthier than what I think some of us had hoped, na talagang outright liberalization na po sana ng ating ekonomiya. Pero it is a start. And the most important thing, it is a united start na nagsasang-ayon na po ngayon ng House at ng Senate. Of course, this will be moving in parallel, but we'd like to think this is a mirror image po ng kanilang galaw. And we are hopeful na by having a united start, united rin po yung finish natin. Yun naman po yung ating goal dito. Yun na po.
Well, it only reinforces our consistent message to the public that the House is very, very sincere to work with the Senate in revisiting our Constitution, specifically the economic provisions. We are happy that the Senate, Senator Angara, has a positive response when yesterday the leadership of the House filed RBH 7 adopting the version of the Senate. It only goes to say that matagal na po namin sinasabi, let's work together, let's discuss about the economic provisions in the Constitution, and possible to have a healthy discussion, a healthy debate, rather than dwell so much on name calling and yung patutsada at mga marites. So, yung ganung klaseng pagbibigay po, it's a display, it's an evidence of our full support to the calling of the President na gusto niya talaga is magkaroon ng adjustment dyan sa economic provisions natin para mas lumago yung ekonomiya natin, foreign direct investments, etc. Ang personal ko lang ng take dito is there's no more reason for the Senate to continuously hear the case of the BI. Sabi nga po ni Senator Angara, it would only dispel that, correct me if I'm wrong, that's what you said, you quoted him, it would definitely change the landscape, the narrative, that it has nothing to do with the PI. So it's the call of the Senate. If we want to really have a open and healthy and productive discussion on economic provisions that we would like to amend, let's wrap up the investigation on the PI kasi they have never and have yet to approve any of the allegations they're discussing. So in order for the public to really understand what we want, what the president wants, what the houses want, and what the Senate want, insofar as the economic provisions is concerned, let's insulate this process from bickerings and from name callings. And the only way to do that, to move forward, is to stop and put, wrap up the PI investigation nila sa Senado kasi namamadal up na po yung information. In fact, ordinary people cannot even categorize and distinguish between what's the discussion on the economic provisions and what is this ongoing PI is about. So yun po yung panawagan po namin. Let's sit down, discuss this over in a healthy manner, productively, let's exchange ideas at wag na natin ito i-delay pa ng i-delay ng sobra at mag-focus doon sa ibang issue na hindi naman makakabuti sa imahe ng legislature. I'm talking about both members of Congress.
Just to add lang po, no, although not necessarily, hindi po tumbok dun sa question, I think we've answered that po. No? But it was rightly put forward by si Kong Zia dun sa PI issue. I remember last week, and I congratulated actually si Chairman Garcia and the rest of COMELEC for coming out with these forms for withdrawal. So at least sana maput to rest na po itong issue ng PI. And although surprisingly, I think it's been a week, but wala pa rin po yung nag-withdraw. And ang sa nakikita po natin, no, although we respect, of course, yung Senate, they have the right, it's their power kung if they want to conduct an inquiry. But I hope they consider po also the far-reaching effects. Kasi pong nakita po natin, as far as we're concerned, I could be wrong, pero wala pa pong nahanap na witness that would particularly support the allegations against PI. Naglabas na po tayo ng withdrawal forms and wala pa rin po nagwi-withdraw. I think by now, some people would know yung decision po nila kung gusto o ayaw po nila sa PI. But with all that said and done, yung far-reaching effects po ng inquiry, yung what others would perceive as a rift between the Senate and the House, sana we put to rest. I think that's what si Kong Zia is saying, and I will echo it now. Yung whatever rift is being caused by that, sana po we can put that to rest already. Kasi yun nga po, like we said, with RBH 7, how this relates to RBH 7 is, ito na po yung focus natin. Hindi na po, I hope we can set aside PI that we may actually work on RBH 6 on their part, 7 on our part. Together we work on this. Ito na po yung focus. So I don't think there's any more reason for either Chamber of Congress to be up in arms about PI. So yun na po yung may tagdag po.
Thank you. For today's last question, you are recognized, Marian Enriquez of Channel 5.
Good morning po. Kahapon po kasi pinasa na po ng Senado sa third and final reading yung 100 pesos na aumento po sa daily wage, minimum wage sa mga manggagawa sa private sector. So meron din po apila si Senate President Mig Zubiri na sana raw po yung mga counterpart, mga mamabatas natin dito sa Kamara, action na rin po yung wage increase bill. Ano po ba yung stand niyo po dito?
Well, syempre we welcome any wage increase lalo na the cost of living is really getting higher ngayon, di ba? Itong 100 peso increase on the minimum wage is good for the people, pero hindi po to sapat. And in any wage increase, alam po natin na syempre it will be additional cost sa mga businesses, especially sa Pilipinas. About 98% ng ating industriya are run by micro, small, medium enterprise enterprises. I think PSA released this data in 2023. At kung yung mga maliliit na mga enterprises ay kukunin, syempre additional cost yan para dumagdag sa kanilang pampasweldo sa kanilang mga labor, sa mga employees, no? Ay then dito pa ang sana nga po Senate at saka Congress at magawa po natin ang trabaho natin to with regard to the economic provisions. Itong mga losses na kukunin ng mga maliliit na enterprises, mga maliliit na business, pag nagkaroon ng investment sana sa mga foreigners ay masasalo nila at matutulungan ang mga enterprises na to para mataas ang sweldo, para hopefully mas marami pa ang trabaho at mas magiging sustainable ang mga businesses natin, which is what we want, para mas maging maganda ang ekonomiya ng Pilipinas at ang kabuhayan ng ating mamamayan.
So, okay. Ayun po mga kababayan, no? Itinanggi po ng Congress na may kinalaman sila dun sa di umano'y coup dyan sa Senado, no? Yung naglalayong nais palitan yung liderato ng Senado. So, ayon nga dito kay Congressman Adiong, no? Alonto Adiong, ay bakit daw sila idadamay dun sa away nila dyan sa Senado, no? At kaugnay naman dito sa aumento, no? 100 pesos per day, minimum wage yata yun mga kababayan, ay ipinasa na ng Senado at inihintay nila yung lower house to do the same. And although sabi nga ni Congressman Nograles, no, ay maliit pa ito, subalit umaalma rin yung ibang mga business owners, no, na baka daw mapilitang magsara, no, dahil sa negatibong epekto naman ito sa mga maliliit na negosyante. Baka hindi nila kayang ipatupad yung aumento na yan dahil mag-resulta sa pagkalugi. So, sana ay magkaroon ng dialogo dyan at sana ay hindi na maipagkait itong aumento na ito sa ating mga manggagawa sapagkat talaga naman, no, na yung pagtaas ng presyo ng bilihin ay hindi naman po talaga maaawat yan sapagkat as times goes by, no, talagang tumataas po ang presyo ng mga bilihin at mga serbisyo. Makikita naman po natin yan if you're going to compare nung during the 60s, of course, 70s, 80s, 90s, pataas po ng pataas yung cost of living. Kaya nga po dapat tinataas din yung aumento o sweldo ng bawat manggagawa. So, I guess it's high time, no, na taasan talaga yung sweldo ng ating mga manggagawa na kung sana hindi naman maapektuhan yung mga maliliit na negosyante. Yung mga malaki, okay lang. No, mga mayayamang kumpanya, okay lang. Pero paano naman yung mga maliliit na negosyante na nagsisimula pa lang at talagang halos hindi pa nga makahabol, no? O kaya mapantayan yung kanilang investment o kaya yung kanilang puhunan, no? So, I hope may mga tulong din na may bibigay dito sa mga small entrepreneurs natin, no? And talagang kailangan po talaga yung momento. At syempre, no, kaya nga nababanggit dito yung economic provisions na dapat amyendahan na upang sa ganun ay makatulong din sa pagpapalago ng ating ekonomiya at pag lumago nga yung ating ekonomiya ay makakatulong din ito para kumita ang gobyerno, no, sa pamamagitan ng mga taxes, no, pag-generate ng trabaho, no. So pag gumanda ang ekonomiya ay mas malaki rin po yung maitutulong ng gobyerno sa ating mga kababayang maliliit na negosyante. So magkakaroon po ng magandang cycle, no. And so yun po mga kababayan, no, ang naging press conference ng Kongreso, no. At kaugnay naman doon sa unang issue nila sa ICC, no, sa International Criminal Court ay ipapaubayan nila sa pasya ng ehekutibo kung ano yung magiging pasya. Pero sabi nga ni Kong Nograles ay nagpahayag ng Pangulo that we will not go back to ICC not unless, no, unless may mga pagbabago, no, na kung saan ay kailangan nating bumalik, no. Pero doon sa kaso ni Pangulong Duterte ay nagpahayag naman siya na hindi siya makipagtulungan. Although may mga clamors, no, majority of the Filipino people ay gusto nang ituloy yung ICC investigation para once and for all ay malaman kung sino ba talaga ang mga architect and perpetrators nitong madugong war on drugs, no. and parusahan kung sino yung dapat parusahan. At absuelto yung dapat ma-absuelto. Pero ang bottom line kasi nito, mga kababayan, ay mayroon din tayong mga kababayan Pilipino. Mayroon din tayong mga kapwa Pilipino who are seeking for justice for the demise of their loved ones. No? Marami naman po talagang nawala at namayapa dahil dito sa madugong gera kontra droga. And some are really innocent, mga kababayan. So yun lang po mga kababayan at ano sabi na? Ma'am Elora. Ay, nako. Host, marites na din ang Senado. Nakalimutan na nila ang sinumpaan nila. Yun na nga eh. Ang Senado ngayon kasi masyadong insecure eh. Lahat na lang ng nakikita nilang ginagawa ng Kongreso na makakatulong sa ating mga kababayan ay tinitingnan nila itong negatibo sapagkat hindi sila yung involved. At palagi nilang pinag-iisipan na yung charter change o People's Initiative, ang layunin nito ay iupo si Martin Romualdez as the Prime Minister at sila i-dissolve. So, ganun palagi yung kanilang iniisip, no? Samantalang openly ay sinasabi naman nila, no, dito sa Kongreso na gusto lang nilang baguhin yung economic provisions and some provisions sa education natin sapagkat yun po ang nais ng ating Pangulo upang maisulong na yung pagbabago ng ating ekonomiya. Pero syempre, alam mo naman, kaya ayaw nilang anti-EPAL bill, no? Kasi gusto nila, umi-EPAL sila palagi sa mga bagay na isinusulong ng gobyerno upang gamitin nila para sa kanilang personal na interest, lalong-lalo na sa mga susunod na eleksyon. So, yun po mga kababayan, maraming salamat and thank you very much for coming and watching. Thank you, Ma'am Elora.